because I take yoga and am into meditation and I teach it to kids and I teach mindfulness and all of that, these sort of I am affirmations were always kind of floating around. But I hadn't really honed in on any of it as a book series. And actually the whole series began with I am yoga. I didn't even know it was going to be a series. It's just my editor said, you teach all this stuff to kids. Why haven't you written a book about this? And as I was writing it, I sort of felt like, I really don't want this to be another instructional, put your foot here, do this, be a cat, be a dog. I really wanted to capture the essence of how it makes you feel and how you can embody it. And that just became I am yoga. And then suddenly it was like the light bulb, like, oh my goodness, right. I am all of these things, I am peace, I am love, I am all of this. And that's how it kind of went from there. But they were just, I certainly think that the yoga, the mindfulness, my own practice and all of those things, influenced it. But I didn't really hone in on it until that first book. I think it was probably mostly that I am affirmation, that I am, embodying whatever it is that you're talking about. And I think that started to really stand out as a way to throw the reader right in and be like, oh, I am these things. How am I these things? Wait, what can I recognize within myself that makes me these things? So I think that was pretty much the thing that really, really stood out. And then also these ideas of taking care of yourself and allowing yourself to do that and doing that in order to then not only be well yourself, but then affect the world around you in a positive way. So those kinds of themes started swirling around in my head. Even now, every time I get like my first copy of something, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's real. It just felt very good because I felt like I had done something sort of unique. And it was, it's thrilling to see it in your own hands. And the idea that educators use these books, I mean, that is beyond for me, because I still, I still feel like a teacher and these are my people. And so that is just one of the things that is just the most amazing. But yeah, that first book, I mean, you're like, whoa, it's real. It's not just a concept in my head. And because also it takes, again, as you know, it takes time from inception to book being out in the world. So it's almost like you forget about it a little bit and you've moved on to the next project and then boom, it's there, it's that hurry up and wait kind of thing. And then it's real. I Am Peace, a book of mindfulness, it sort of felt like a natural progression because there's yoga and mindfulness and then whatever else comes next. And so it seemed like the appropriate next idea to tackle, next, iteration of I am to tackle. And it's very inspired by that sort of work to be in the present moment, and how it also is inspired by, the ideas of yoga and mindfulness in the school, because that's where I was teaching them. There was a lot of pushback initially, and there still is on some level. And I think I Am Peace was my way of making the idea of mindfulness really accessible and not so esoteric or overly spiritual or religious or whatever it is that everyone was afraid of. And it's just about, watching the clouds and hugging a tree and all of those things. So that was, sort of the impetus for that. And then because I want those things to be really accessible, all the things that I talk about, I don't want them to feel like, I'm bringing you in some kind of cult, but I want you to understand that there's this level of self-love and self-care that is accessible to everybody. And Peter, I mean, bless him. He is just, it was amazing to be able to work with him. And he is, we are very connected in terms of the messages we try to send through our work, and our love for educators and all of that. So with him, it's such a wonderful process because he just gets it. Like I will have something visual potentially in my head when I'm writing, but I'm not an artist in that way. And then, I send it off to him, and what he comes back with, I'm just like, oh my God, I never would have thought of that at all. The only thing that I had to guide him with was in I Am Yoga. I knew very specifically what poses went with sort of what phrases. And he didn't know that much about yoga itself. So there was a lot more back and forth on that. But even then, the way he then expressed the pose was just, oh my goodness. So it's really thrilling to work with him. And I always know he's going to send me something that's just going to push me over the edge in a wonderful way.